CSS would like to thank Reset Games for providing me with this game so that I can deliver this review to you guys. Check them out in the description or by clicking their logo on screen. Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross, released in 2000 by Square for the PlayStation, is the sequel to Chrono Trigger. In a lot of ways, it's like Chrono Trigger, but in a lot of ways, it has a whole different feel. This game definitely delivers a unique experience, so let's dive right in to see what makes this game tick. Chrono Cross is the story of Serge, a boy who ends up in another dimension parallel to his own, in a world that is very familiar to what he's used to, but at the same time has a lot of differences, one of the major ones being that 10 years ago, he actually died and no longer exists in this other world. The story then follows him, a young thief named Kid, and a whole slew of other characters, as they try and figure out what is going on, obtain an object known as the Frozen Flame, and defeat the villain known as Lynx. I won't say much more to avoid spoilers, but I will say the game eventually does connect with its predecessor, Chrono Trigger. Overall, I don't mind the plot that the game gives us, but the delivery is done poorly. Mainly, a lot of things are left unexplained, certain character motivations end up being confusing, and after it was all over, I felt like a lot of the events didn't feel like they had much of a point. Not that there wasn't a point, but there was only a point because the game told you there was. The drive wasn't there exactly. On top of that, the majority of the exposition is not learned gradually. Most of it is saved near the end of the game, and a lot of it's just kind of dumped on you by a few characters. In fact, there's a scene near the end where 3 characters dump all the remaining exposition on you in just one giant text dump. They didn't do a good job of having you learn the information naturally and build it up gradually. And to an extent, this led to the game being fairly anticlimactic. It's not that the game doesn't have all the right parts to telling a good story, they just did it in a poor fashion. There is a moment halfway through where there's an awesome plot twist, but after that, it just feels like they didn't do as much as they could have with what they had in terms of the plot. Granted, the plot doesn't detract from the game at all, it just feels like there's so much potential here, and they didn't carry out that potential. And another issue I have is early on in the game they make a big deal about small things changing your destiny. And the gameplay reflected this. By saying yes instead of no, you could end up missing out on a character or getting one character but not another. Eventually though, this is no longer relevant, and I kinda wish they'd expand on this concept a bit. Even more so with the 2 dimensions, there was a whole realm of gameplay where something in one dimension didn't exist in another and you had to go to that dimension to obtain it. Again, this just kind of was used once and then dropped off and was no longer important, and it felt like if they had expanded on what they initially laid down as the groundworks, this game could have been really incredible in terms of plot and plot progression. The game does shine with its characters though. It is unique in that it has a huge cast of 45 playable characters, compared to most games which have 7 or 8 main party members. I found myself switching off between characters quite a bit. With RPGs, I tend to stick to my 3 favorites or so. Here, I ended up with several favorite characters, and even ones that I wasn't that fond of, I found myself experimenting with just for the sake of trying them out. Plus, there are events later in the game that force you to try out new characters and not use your old characters. And I like that the game does this because it allows you to experience all the characters as opposed to just being stuck with 3 or 2. The cast ranges from a pirate who has lost his lover, to a space alien, to a voodoo doll, to a general of an army. It's just a really diverse cast, and all of them feel like they have something important to the story, like they, are joining your quest for a reason. It's not just that they're thrown in to an extent. Even the minor characters I feel for a bit. It is interesting to see what different characters say depending on the situation, though I didn't experiment too much, so I don't know how radically different the dialogue is depending on who you have with you. The characters also have a variety of different accents, some of them having a French accent, and some actually having an Australian English accent, as well as some slang. Some of the characters may not get a ton of development in terms of their motivations and their goals, but considering the large cast, some of the characters are more developed than games with only 7 main party members or less. Obviously, an important element of the game is traveling between the 2 dimensions, though as I've mentioned, I wish they would have expanded on this a bit more. Not so much that the dimensions need to be more different, but more so that they could have better utilized crossing between the 2 dimensions better than they did. As it is, it feels more like you're in one dimension exploring and then you're in another one and that's it. You don't cross over as much as I would have preferred them to allow you to do. Navigating is fairly easy. When you're in a dungeon, just like with Chrono Trigger, you can avoid enemies by running around them because all the enemies are visible on the path. Since enemy encounters only net you a small increase in stats, most often it's better just to avoid them. Unlike most games, there isn't an actual experience system. Typically, you only get a huge level boost in terms of stats when you beat a boss. One issue I had early on was being able to tell what paths were walkable and what paths weren't. Due to the pre-rendered graphics, it was kind of hard to tell if something was a background element or if it wasn't. When examining objects to net you items, sometimes it was hard to tell what was decorative and what was actually an item. Everything just kind of read as the background, but this was a very minor issue and was more so just at the beginning of the game, so it didn't affect my gameplay as a whole. The battle system can be a bit confusing at first, but once I got the hang of it, I felt it was one of the best RPG battle systems I've seen. Each player has a stamina bar. Unlike Chrono Trigger, where a character performed an action and then had to wait before they perform another action, in Chrono Cross you can use a character whenever you want as long as they have stamina. Each character's bar starts at 7, losing stamina when they attack or perform another action. They recover stamina while defending or when another character uses up stamina. This allows for versatile strategies, as you could attack once with one character, switch to another character, and then switch to a third character, so by that point the first character will have recovered their stamina. Or you can just attack with one character and then go to another character, allowing a plethora of different playstyles. I really love the attacking system too. Instead of just simple attacking, you can choose between a weak attack, a medium attack, or a strong attack. Each attack has a certain percentage of the attack hitting. Like for example, the attack may be 89% likely to be successful. The weak attack of course has the higher chance of hitting, where the stronger attack has the lowest. By doing weaker attacks, you can increase the chances of the strong attack being successful. Being able to do multiple attacks in a row, thanks to the stamina system, makes attacking feel more like an actual battle as opposed to, just attacking once and then waiting for the next move. Also, by attacking, you increase your level, which allows you to use elements. The element system handles magic, character text, and consumable items. Each character has their own unique element grid, and you place the elements in said grid. Certain elements need to be placed higher in the grid depending on the level that the element is. You can place elements lower on the grid than where they're meant to go, though this weakens them slightly, vice versa with placing them higher on the grid. When you are at level 3, for example, in battle, you can use all the elements from levels 1 to 3. If you use a level 1 element, your level will decrease down to 2. Also, once you use an element, you are no longer allowed to use that specific element again during the battle you are currently in. All elements that aren't consumable will be reset for the next battle. If you want to use like the same attack multiple times with the same element multiple times, you'll have to add that element multiple times to your element grid. I do prefer this system to the standard PP battle system because with the PP battle system being able to have a magic bar, as long as you had potions to refill your magic bar, you had unlimited magic. And while it never gets to the point that you run out of elements, having that more finite system, you can obtain elements by buying them in the store or getting them from as the spoils from a battle. Elements are divided into 6 types: white, black, red, green, yellow, and blue. Each character also has an innate element type, so if your character is innately red, blue elements are strong against them. At the same time though, red elements are also strong against blue, vice versa with yellow and green, and black and white. My issue with the system though is that it's so well done, but it just really provides a challenge. It almost makes things too easy, and I really had to struggle with any boss. I mean, most RPG games do have easy bosses that you just hack away at, but here it was almost effortless, and I feel like this game's battle system had so much more potential to having very extraordinary battles. If they put a little bit more care in the enemy AI, I feel like it could have been one of the best battle systems I ever experienced, allowing you to have like this actual feel of battling and needing to really get into the game and focusing. Instead, I never really had to worry about losing a battle. In fact, I never gotten a game over. It's a great battle system, and it's still, fun to use. It could have been so much more. The music was scored by Yasunori Mitsuda, who also composed the soundtrack for Chrono Trigger and Mario Party, along with other games. I feel the soundtrack is phenomenal, with songs ranging from environmentally minimalistic to epic battle themes with a lot of energy behind them. There's also energetic and cheerful town music compared to quiet and somber melody with a very heavenly feel. The music just helps setting the mood for the game, and it really works well with the visuals to suck you into the game's world. I can't say enough about how much I love the soundtrack for this game. Chrono Cross is visually stunning, maybe not in this day and age, but being one of the later games for the PlayStation, it looks more polished than any other game I've played. It uses pre-rendered backgrounds, and because of this you get a unique visual feel to different towns, being able to, go into them and move out, and it's just very sharp and polished for a game on the PlayStation compared to like other games I played on the PlayStation. They also did a great job with the color scheme overall. The game is very pretty and beautiful to look at, so presentation-wise, I'm very impressed. Sometimes it is odd running into the background. Sometimes it feels like you're going way longer into the background than you should be. It feels odd to control, but that's a very minor issue. Look, overall, Chrono Cross is a really good game. It was really fun to play, and I highly recommend it if you're into RPGs. If you aren't, Chrono Cross probably won't change your mind about RPGs in general, but it's always worth a shot to try. You might as well try it instead of, not trying it. Fans of Chrono Trigger may not be happy with this game being a sequel, as in a lot of ways it doesn't feel like Chrono Trigger, but in some ways that's a good thing. I kind of like that it has its own unique feel. Fans may also be disappointed with some of the plot elements that tie in with Chrono Trigger, but personally, it didn't bother me, some of the revelations that are revealed in this game. Overall though, Chrono Cross is a game I feel that had all the right parts to create a phenomenal game, but they were put together in a kind of haphazardly fashion. It has so much potential, and it just didn't take advantage of it. By no means is this game bad though. I just feel with a few minor adjustments, specifically in increasing the enemy AI to be more competent, to have more thrilling battles, as well as adjusting delivery of the plot, I think this could have been one of the best RPGs I've ever played. I would say it's up there in probably my top 10, and hell, in some ways I even like it more than Chrono Trigger. But yeah, that's my thought on the game overall. Chrono Cross is available for the PlayStation, and it is also available via the PlayStation Network for $10, I believe.